Welcome back to Tech Stack for all you tech enthusiasts. This is part 9 of our Laravel 13 series. In this video, we're going to learn how to work with forms and input fields in Laravel. Now let's create a new view named addEmployee using Laravel's artisan command. We'll use this view to build our employee form and learn how to work with form and input fields in Laravel. Now let's open the addEmployee.blade.php view file and start building our employee form. Now add an H1 tag with the text, Add New Employee. This heading makes it clear that this page is used to add a new employee. Now let's open the web.php file and create a route that directly returns the addEmployee view. Since this page only displays a view, we can use route view instead of creating a controller method. Now let's open the terminal and start the Laravel development server by running php artisan serve. Now let's copy the server URL, paste it into the browser, and open the /addEmployee route to test our new page. Perfect. As you can see, our Add New Employee page is loading successfully. Now let's add a form tag to our Add New Employee page. Now let's set the form method to post so the form can send data to the server. Now let's add a text input field where users can enter the employee's name. Now let's add a placeholder to the text input that says Enter Name. Placeholder provides a hint to the user about what information should be entered into the input field. Now let's add the name attribute and set it to name so Laravel can identify this input field when the form is submitted. Now let's duplicate the input field and update it for the city. Change the placeholder to enter city and the name attribute to city. Now let's refresh the browser and see how our form looks. Perfect. As you can see, both input fields are now displayed correctly on the page. Now let's add a submit button with the text, Add New Employee. The button allows users to send the form data to the server when they click it. Now let's refresh the browser and test our form with the submit button. Perfect. As you can see, our form is now complete with the input fields and the submit button. Now let's open the employee controller and create a new method that will handle the post request from our form. Now let's create a new method named addEmployee. This method will receive the form data submitted through the post request. In the next steps, we'll access and process the submitted values inside this function. Let's simply display the text, Add New Employee, to confirm that our form request is reaching the controller. Now let's open the web.php file and create a post route that points to the addEmployee method in our employee controller. Now let's create a post route for Add New Employee and map it to the addEmployee method in the employee controller. Now copy the Add New Employee URL and use it in the form's action attribute. Now let's test the form. Click the Add New Employee button. Perfect. You can see the Add New Employee text appears after clicking the button. Now open the employee controller and add request as a parameter to the addEmployee method. Now let's try to display the $request object to see what is being sent from the form. Now let's test it in the browser. Now let's enter a sample name and city. Then click the Add New Employee button. After clicking the Add New Employee button, Laravel will display the request object. Perfect. As you can see, the request object is being displayed. Now we'll make a small change to display only the employee's name. Now let's access the employee's name using request name. Then go back to the browser and test the form again. Now enter a name and click the Add New Employee button. Perfect. As you can see, only the employee's name is being displayed. Now we'll learn how to handle a drop-down field. Dropdowns allow users to choose one option from a predefined list. Now add an H1 heading with a text department. Now add a select element and set its name attribute to department. Add an ID attribute to the dropdown and set it to department. Now let's add our first dropdown option with the value IT and display the text IT. Now let's add a second option for the HR department. Now let's open the employee controller and display the selected department using the request object. Now let's go back to the browser, select a department, and submit the form. Perfect. You can see the selected HR department is being displayed. Now let's move on to another important form element and learn how to work with radio buttons in Laravel. Now add an H1 heading with a text gender. Now let's add our first radio button using the type equals radio input. Add the name attribute and set it to gender. All radio buttons in the same group must have the same name attribute. This ensures that the user can select only one option. Let's set the ID to male and the value to male for our first radio button. Let's add a label for the male radio button. For attribute in the label matches the radio button's ID. This allows users to click the label to select the radio button, improving usability. Now let's duplicate the radio button along with its label so we can create another option. Now let's update the second radio button by changing the ID, value, and label from male to female. Now let's update each label so the user can clearly see the available options, male and female. Now let's open the employee controller and display the selected gender using the request object. Now let's go back to the browser, reload the page, select a gender, and submit the form. Perfect. As you can see, the selected gender is displayed successfully after submitting the form. Now add an H1 heading with the text certifications. In this section, we'll learn how to handle checkboxes. Now let's copy the complete radio button with its label and modify it to create our checkbox fields. A checkbox is similar to a radio button, but the main difference is that checkboxes allow users to select multiple options, while radio buttons allow only one selection. Now let's update the label text and set it to first aid for our first certification option. Now let's update the value, ID, and label for attributes so they match our new certification option, first aid. Now add the name attribute and set it to cert. Now let's update the input type from radio to checkbox. Now let's duplicate the checkbox and label so we can add more certification options. We can reuse this checkbox structure and simply update the ID, value, and label text for each new certification. Now let's change the second checkbox option to PMP by updating the ID, value, and label text. Each checkbox should have a unique ID and value, while the name attribute remains the same so Laravel can identify all selected certifications. Now let's duplicate the checkbox and label so we can add more certification options. Now let's update this checkbox option for AWS. We'll change the ID, value, and label text so it represents the AWS certification. Now let's update this checkbox option for AWS. We'll change the ID, value, and label text so it represents the AWS certification. Now let's use cert in the employee controller and display the selected certifications from the checkboxes. Now let's refresh the browser, select multiple certifications, and click the Add New Employee button to submit the form. As you can see, we selected multiple certifications, but Laravel is only receiving one value. This happens because we need to send the checkbox values as an array. Let's fix it in the next step. Now let's convert our checkbox name into an array by adding square brackets with cert. Now let's test it again. Select multiple checkboxes and submit the form. As you can see, Laravel is now receiving multiple values, but it is displaying array because checkbox data is coming as an array. We need to handle this array to display the individual values. Print are to display the checkbox array. This function displays the complete structure and values of an array. This helps us see all the certifications selected by the user. Now select multiple checkboxes and press the Submit button. Perfect. As you can see, we have successfully handled multiple checkbox values using arrays in Laravel. This is the end of our form and input field section. I hope everything is clear and easy to understand. In the next part, we'll continue learning more Laravel features. See you in the next video. If you're passionate about learning new technologies, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tech Stack, and keep learning new skills. Thank you. And remember, consistency is the key to success.